So I'm here with Costa Savva, who is the CEO of Lazudi. Firstly, Costa, thanks for talking to us today.
Thank you, Edmund. Pleasure to be on your YouTube channel for today.
So the reason I wanted to talk to you today, Costa, is we recently put out an article which was 7 PropTechs transforming the Southeast Asian market. Lazudi is one of the companies on that list. And basically, I was curious about a whole bunch of things when I was doing the research for it. So before we get into that, can you just quickly give us a really simple explanation of what Lazudi does and how exactly it is that you guys make your revenue?
Yeah, we're a tech-enabled brokerage, established and scaled up in Thailand. Started off purely in Bangkok and moved into multiple cities. We are directly into the transaction. Our focus is trying to find efficiencies, digitizing what we can of the transaction, and helping gradually push the industry forward a bit through more efficient tools and technology.
Okay. So one of the things that really stood out to me when I was doing the research for this article was that the lines between like a brokerage or a concierge service or a portal seems to be kind of blurred in Southeast Asia. Would that be fair to say?
I guess it depends on the type of businesses in how they position themselves. I know a few different people, especially over COVID, have tried to find different positions and how they operate and how they make revenue in these markets. Your portals have become a bit more of a traditional media business, doing events, awards, and things like that. Brokerages have scaled up to the size where they're competing with the portals now. Could be a bit of a sign of the times where consumers are looking for a bit more transparency and accuracy in the market. The main issues that we face in these markets is that they're non-exclusive. So they're very buyer driven. A lot of content online isn't accurate. Multi-listed properties, not all brokers and agents keep their inventory up to date. So as a few players like ourselves who are sort of pushing the scale and the tech on the brokerage side, a lot of us are a little bit more focused on accuracy and trying to bring to the market something that is actually available and I think it comes down to a better consumer journey, which is always the feedback that we get from consumers with using portals. They're the same properties there 10 times, maybe different prices, but the portals are still going to be king because they have the width and the depth of the market that an agency can't offer.
Okay. You said there that some brokerages are kind of almost competing with portals now, which is something that I found really interesting doing the research, because you had a lot of brokerages sites or sites that kind of appear to be brokerage sites or agent sites that are in themselves like legitimate destinations, legitimate marketplaces with almost as many listings as the portals, but they then list their listings on the portal. It seems like a strange situation. Is there any kind of hint of any of these big brokerage sites going, okay, we don't want to list on the portal anymore, we want to be a destination site for users in our own right?
I do, yeah, yes, in short answer. However, I don't think the portals will lose their presence in the market. They're, in terms of their scale and the audience and the traffic they get, for any type of real estate business, if you're promoting and you're in the transaction, whether you're a property developer or tech-enabled broker or a freelance or one-man band type of person, the portals add so much value as a marketing channel. You can't underestimate their brands. Consumers have used these tools and marketplaces for over a decade now. So I do agree that they compete in sense of in the marketplace, but the portals, their strength isn't going to go away anytime soon.
Okay, so you guys are based in Thailand. There's a lot of companies, PropTech startups that are either in Thailand or in the region that are getting into the transaction, right? And they're kind of, to me, it seems like more work than just building a portal. are the portals fairly profitable in markets like Thailand, or are they not that profitable? And that's why these new companies want to get further into the transaction to actually make a decent profit.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult for me to comment on the portals because I don't know too much about their financials. I do know that they're heavily used consumers and as a platform to pay to advertise on. You know, a lot of them have changed their models in terms of how they are charging, and the packages have greatly changed over the last couple of years. I do feel there is a bit of a push from the portals to create a better consumer platform. So they're bringing in limits in terms of the amount of listings, trying to help smaller players compete with larger players. So in terms of what they're doing on the tech side is quite interesting. On the other flip side, obviously, you know, being on directly in the transaction, the ticket is bigger. You know, I do think that is kind of why people have gravitated to there in terms of, you know, the amount of revenue you generate on a subscription or a marketing package versus the amount of property and commissions earned from those brokerages on that are advertising on the portals. It's just the ticket size is a lot bigger when you're directly in the transaction. So you're not having to. You can really focus on creating the best user journey when you're in the transaction without having to kind of put in all these supplementary products and sell other advertising positions and things to try to monetize. You can really drill down and focus on creating a very smooth and efficient process from, you know, from a buyer or a tenant, you know, going through to the land office and transfers and so forth.
Okay, I want to talk about, and you kind of mentioned it earlier. One thing that surprised me when doing the research as well was that all of these companies just seem to be able to get thousands and thousands of listings with no problem. There doesn't, like you said, there's no exclusivity. I got the feeling on some platforms that they maybe weren't all legitimate listings, let's say. How big of an issue is the kind of trust and authenticity issue in these markets? Would you say it's your biggest challenge working in a market like Thailand, or are there other things to worry about?
I mean, definitely. Obviously, some people who are trying to scale very quickly are, you know, they're going for a content play. I think that's what, you know, a lot of these tech brokerages have learned from the portal strategies. You know, it's content listings then drives lead generation that then, you know, creates revenue for you. You know, in terms of our strategy, we've always tried to verify everything. You know, we go back and check inventory, do our best job to try to stay on top of what is on the market. Obviously, you know, it's a dynamic market as well. Property owners change their minds. Some people are speculating to see if they get any offers. It's not as tied down as you find in developed markets, where, you know, someone who engages a broker is a lot more genuine to sell. So you get people that are sort of on the fence in the middle. You know, every month they might decide to sell it or not. So you know, it's because it's so dynamic on that side. It sometimes is difficult for some of the brokerages to kind of stay up to date with their inventory. You know, some of the other strategies in play is because they've created these big platforms. You know, some companies are doing a B2B co-broke process as well, where other smaller traditional brokerages will share inventory with some of these bigger brokerages, and they split the commissions on a transaction. So they're reducing their risk of marketing and their outlay. If you're a small sort of Remax or Century 21 or sort of your own brand, you know, you can plug it into one of these larger tech-enabled brokerages and sort of, you know, who are more efficient on the advertising and the consumer side. So that's one strategy that quite a few of the players have done here. Obviously, that can compete with the portals in sense, and so that then takes it out of your control if you are relying on other people posting on your platform. Obviously, the benefits of you know, scaling and putting your brand out there as well, you get a lot more consumers that come to you and sign up to your platform, and you can really look after them properly. You know, a lot of the feedback that we had from consumers in the early days was that they would share their property or their listing with multiple agents, but never felt that there was any marketing activity or push behind it. It might just go onto a spreadsheet and get lost. They might get a post on a portal, but no upgrades and no leads are ever generated on it, which then goes into the time of sale. A lot of people might have had their listing with a small broker, but 12 months later, they've not done any viewings on it. So I think the consumers are looking for something a bit more active in terms of the promotion of their properties, how it's seen, how it's marketed, which are some of the obviously the benefits some of these tech-enabled brokerages are bringing to the table, because through automation, through creating these sort of larger platforms that bring consumers to it, gets more eyeballs on to these properties and more inquiries on a per listing level.
Okay, we did another article in parallel with the Southeast Asia one, which was based in Latin America, and there's a lot of similarities between the two regions in a lot of ways, a lot of similar companies. The kind of big difference is the amount of VC money going into Latin America compared to Southeast Asia. Could you maybe see the same thing happening in Southeast Asia, where we end up getting like one of these huge companies like a Loft or a Quinto Andar? Do you think that there is a lot more money coming in just around the corner, maybe?
There's definitely been a lot more interest from VCs in the region, across the PropTech, not just portals and transforming the transaction as well. There's a lot of peripheral businesses that are coming in. Fintech is really kicking off. There's agri-tech. There's other sort of real estate peripheral type businesses coming in to solve problems. Obviously, the trouble here is the scale and the size of these markets. If you look at Brazil in isolation in terms of population per capita, the size of the consumer spending, it can be a lot more attractive for VCs in terms of the growth for potential businesses in a single market. I think key for Southeast Asia and it proves how scalable your model is if you can take it cross-border. So if you can replicate that into more markets, I believe that's where the success is and where a lot of VCs are looking at. I do feel the tech scene's a bit slow in terms of how developed it's been in sort of the developed markets. If you look at sort of the resources, the talent pool that you've got here, it's only really the last decade where it started to emerge, and that's off the back of big businesses like Grab, what Property Guru have done, Lazada, and these businesses who've sort of developed and trained up the talent pool, and from the back of that, people going through those processes, then they're moving into more specialist niche sectors, which sort of benefiting the growth of our business, because we can hire people that come from a tech background or a startup sort of mentality. Whereas when I first came out here a decade ago, that it was hardly ever existed here. People were sort of pioneers and the vanguards into developing these digital economies, whereas now it's become more of a norm. So I do think over the next couple of decades we'll see that accelerate and become a lot more attractive. And I think companies like Grab and what they've done for the region, that's really put Southeast Asia on the map, and kind of investors like, actually, this could be a region that has a lot of potential. And if you look at the population of Indonesia and Philippines, and if you can get into those markets and into the size of those and sort of have a bit of a footprint here, then that would be very very interesting.
All right, Costa, thanks very much for talking to us today. Some really interesting stuff. I really look forward to seeing what Lazudi does. Hopefully you'll have some news for us soon.